Okay.
Hello, everyone. We are about to record a programmatic episode. We'll get started in just a moment.
Let me at least see if I can log into the channel. Hold on.
173 subscribers on Techopolis. We love that number. Keep building the number for us. That would be great. Okay.
Yep.
Now, got to do a few things and we'll get started.
We were trying to get my TTS script to work, which I have been building, but gotta love Google sometimes. So. Gotta love it.
Google APIs are difficult.
Oh my gosh. And the worst part of it is you can't have two different apps that have the same different purpose in the Cloud Console.
You actually can. You actually can.
And I guess I shouldn't listen to their documentation.
Yeah, you could create as many apps as you want that do very similar things.
No, I kind of dropped the ball. What I should have done is I should have figured out that you wanted to use this today. B, I should have just built a DMG so we didn't have to deal with this. And I could just do that with a tool called Briefcase in Python. So I should have done that.
All right. Posting on Mastodon to get the word out.
In fact, what I might do is I'm just gonna, let's see. Oh, I saw Mastodon post.
There goes the elephant in the room on Taylor's side.
Well, I have two for server admin stuff.
Huh.
Because I think I'm an admin at Techopolis. So I see everything. I think. Maybe. Toot is the best for server administration.
Yep. Hang on just a minute. This YouTube is being stupid.
What's it doing?
And is saying that the stream is private.
Uh-oh. Is it really?
It sure is.
Hold on. Well.
Okay, it's not saying it anymore.
Okay. That was weird.
That was very weird. And the chat wasn't showing up. I don't know what was going on there. Quite interesting, to say the least. So, all right. That's going now. That had me a little nervous. That was not something you see every day.
Who knows? Hopefully they didn't take it down because they thought I was a child again.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, my new YouTube channel is doing phenomenal.
Yeah, she loves to talk about her new YouTube channel, folks.
I know. Well, look, I didn't expect we'd be this, many subscribers in the first week, so that's why
Oh yeah, you had a big audience on your old channel, so it makes sense. So
yeah.
And also, if you want to, you could tune into this on IACast Radio, so it's there as well. We are on all the things. So, all right. I might want to record this. That might be useful.
Yep. Did you edit the last one? I can't remember.
Yes, I did. It's up.
Okay. Well, what do I know anymore, y'all? Just kidding.
Yeah, the last programmatic is posted that we did, so that's fantastic. And let me turn on my video and actually look up.
I almost got booted.
How's that?
I almost hit leave meeting when the recording prompt came up.
Ah, yeah, that's not a good idea to do.
No, I think my video's in good position. Oh, man.
You're great. I just had to get in a good position myself.
Well, yeah. Like I said, I'm trying to look up so YouTube doesn't think I'm a child. So, you know.
Well, there's a few things to that too, and same for me. Um, Video
That
is
is
always
brain accurate.
difficult. My microphone is way down here, and my camera's way up here. So finding a good balance is difficult. Although, hang on a minute. Let's see if this works. It might. It might not.
What do you wait? I don't see. Oh wait, I see you kind of.
I am trying a thing. Hey, that actually kind of works.
What are you doing?
um, how do I sound now?
You sound pretty good.
Do I? Do I sound
Yeah.
closer to my microphone than I did?
Yes. What are you doing?
So I put my microphone on top of my Beats case.
Oh.
So it's just sitting on top of the case, and I can kind of, you know, still not the best angle personally, but
No.
it works. So yeah, there we go. Now we can do this thing. So are we ready?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. This is so weird. Like, okay, so for video audience, this is what I'm doing. This is my microphone. If the cables will reach, I don't think it will. It won't reach it. There we go. And then I have it sitting on top of this Beats case. So yeah, it works. And I can tap my desk, and it's not like I'm like thundering. So that's
Yeah.
good. Okay. Now that we've bored everybody, and I'll have to edit a lot of this recording, let's get this thing started.
Yeah.
Let me press do not disturb on my computer.
Yep, I just did that. Hence why I'm not getting any notifications and
F6 is
why
great.
it is, except when you
Okay.
forget to turn it off.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yep, and
Okay.
then you realize why you didn't get the Zoom link this morning.
Yeah, that's a good reason. 3, 2, 1. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Programmatic. My name is Michael Dowies, and I'm here again with Taylor Arndt. Hi, Taylor. How are you doing today?
Ah, Michael, I'm doing pretty good, except trying to get this script to work. But anyways, that's nor here nor there.
That's the usual answer of a programmer, right there, right
Yeah,
there.
trying to get
That's
this
how
to
it usually
work.
goes.
Yeah.
So we thought that we would come in and do a programmatic episode on how to use Git, not Get, not GET, but GIT in
No.
2024. And the reason why we wanted to do that is a lot of people do not know how to use Git. And a lot of people don't know what Git is. So Taylor, why don't you explain to people in your view, what is Git? How is it used? And then I'll come in and give my thoughts.
So Git is a system in a sense. There's a lot of different like websites and things that you can use it. But basically, it's a system where you can store and you can collaborate with code. So you can be able to collaborate on your projects, and you can also store your code for later use or to show off to the world. And like I said, there's a lot of different sites that do this, but Git is the underlying property, I guess you'd say, and then there's like GitHub and others that actually make it more feasible instead of just a terminal or a whatever. Instead of running your own Git server, I should say.
Yeah, so Git is version control.
Yep.
So in like Google Docs, as it was explained during Technically Working, which is another fantastic podcast, by the way. If you're not listening and subscribe to that, highly recommend that you do that. They explain it really well. They explain it as version control. also known as track changes in Google Docs and other things like that in different uh, software programs. You can use Git to track your changes in anything, and it just depends on what you're working on, how much you use it, right?
Yeah, I pretty
So,
much use it every day. So.
so Git is a way to it's kind of like Command Z or Control Z for undo. So
Yes.
if I make a change that breaks my code, I could just go back into Git and say, I want to restore back from where I was because that didn't work. And then, so people are like, okay, well, how are Git and GitHub the same thing? Well, no. What's the difference,
No.
Taylor?
Well, so the way I guess I want to say I understand it is like, Git is, of course, well, it's, I mean, I think it's like all free, but GitHub adds more features to Git where it makes it a lot easier to collaborate, and they also have all their AI features. Hopefully that helped, Michael. You may have to expand on that.
Sure. So Git is basically the offline way of doing version control. GitHub is a
Cloud,
remote
yeah.
place to store your content. So when you do things with Git, you send it to GitHub,
Correct,
and that
yeah.
way other people can collaborate, or you can make sure that you back up your code off of your computer. And that's the important differentiating thing. Git and GitHub are not the same thing, but they
No,
work
they're
on the
not.
same principles, right?
Right now, yeah. Sorry, Michael.
Go ahead.
Right now, I have some local repositories that are backed up on my computer to Git, right? But I haven't put them in the cloud. So, until I want to actually put them in the cloud, because I've got sensitive stuff in there, then I would just put them in the cloud. But right now, they're just on my computer in case I make a catastrophic change.
So right now they're only on her computer in a Git repository or
Correct.
repo,
Correct.
as
Yes.
they say.
Yep. And my favorite command, if in case I mess something up, is git dash dash reset. Git reset hard. I think it's git dash dash
Mm-hmm.
reset hard.
Well, we'll get into those. We'll get into those soon.
I know,
So
but
the so GitHub, lets us back up our code into public or private repositories. Now, in the past, GitHub made it to where everything had to be free, or if you wanted to have private repositories, you had to pay. That has changed.
it sure has.
So
And yeah,
go
it's
ahead.
awesome. And sorry, Michael. And if you also like were a student when that happened, like you could get free repos, or if, for example, you contributed to open source. This is what I understand because this has actually happened to me. Before I was a student, I contributed to some kind of open source software. Can't remember what it was, but GitHub recognized that and they gave me the pro plan anyway. So I'm not sure how that works. It's called like the Arctic Vault Contributor or something. I don't know what that is. I think it's because I contributed to Visual Studio Code.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's several things to that, and so GitHub is great, but we're going to focus on Git today, the built-in um, way to make changes. So, okay, say you create a new document. Say, let's take source code out of the picture here, and say you create a document, or or you're writing a book or anything. You can use Git for version control of your book.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with Git, basically you have a folder on your computer and you just start typing, you're just making your changes. You save your changes to the hard drive and Git will track your changes. And the way it does that is through several mechanisms. So, say I write a chapter in a book and, I eventually will get into around to writing my book and I'll probably use Git for my version control, right? So, you write your book, you write chapter 1, you save it, and you're like, okay, I don't want to change chapter 1. It's great. I might commit those changes to version control or source control at that point so that I have a point in my timeline that I could go back to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what we do is we add those changes to be staged. Now, you can, on the command line, you could use git, so git add period to add everything in the directory that you're in and recursively down, or git add star to add everything. That's another way to do it, or git add file name if you don't want to add everything to commit at once.
Yeah.
So there's a few ways of doing this, right? There's a few ways to stage changes. You could also stage your changes in the version control or source control tab in VS Code. And it's like visually it shows like a little dot with two branches coming off of it, and we'll get into branches later, but that's
Yep.
the visual icon.
And for screen reader users, it says that there is uncommitted changes.
Mm-hmm. So
So
you
we did this a
stage your
little bit
changes.
yesterday. Yeah.
Hmm?
I said we did this a little bit yesterday in my tutorial, so.
Mm-hmm. You stage your changes, right? And once you've staged your changes, then you commit your changes to source control. What that means is that you're saying these changes are what I want on this commit. So I can, I can revert back to that commit. And you can revert back several commits. I'm not going to explain how to do that on this tutorial because it's more complicated. But there is ways of doing it in VS Code. I use SourceTree, GitHub Desktop. All of these applications have ways of doing that. You can view your previous commits and go back to one. Now, so what is a repo or repository, and why is it important? Taylor, what is a repo?
A repo is basically a collection of documents or code, and it's kind of, you can almost think about like as a folder, but it's like on, GitHub, if that's what you're saying. And it's important because you can have different features to track different parts of your repo. For example, like if we take GitHub, there's like issues and all these other things. But really, like I said, repo is a collection of folders, well, yeah, folder files, and it has all of your source code if you're taking code, for example.
So your repo is your working copy of what you're working on. It is the a place where all of your files are stored. Now,
Yep.
your repo can change based on certain things, like branches. And when we start a repo, we're always in either a branch called master or main. GitHub calls it main now. It changed a few years ago. But
Yep.
the reason is we start somewhere. And usually people use main, master, or whatever you call it as the production branch. That is where everything goes when you're ready to send it out to production. And you can make branches to represent different versions of your code. This is the true power of Git, in my opinion, because
Yes, it
with
is.
branches, you can basically work on several different ideas without affecting your main branch. So let's go back to our book that we're writing. So I wrote chapter 1, I committed it in the chapter 1 branch, and then I merged, which is a term, merging, back to the main branch. So that is set in stone. We know that that's going to be in the book. We don't need to edit it anymore, right? So then we have a chapter 2 branch. We write that chapter, right? We commit it and then we merge it back into main. But I could also go back to the chapter 1 branch and say, oh, well, I don't like how chapter 2 connects to chapter 1 with this. Then I could go back to chapter 1, make that edit, not even see chapter 2, and then push those back to main, and I have chapter 1 and chapter 2 back in the main in our production. So that's the power of branching. And, if multiple people are working on something, say you're working on code, then I could write a feature I could have feature slash um, add AI support to project, right?
Yep.
And then I can commit that back into usually a develop branch so that you could test all the changes at once and then send that back to main whenever it's ready to be released to the public. Now, this is called Git flow, Git flow, where it's a technique for using branching to make features and different things so you don't cross over other developers' work. When that happens, you create merge conflicts. So if I write something on line
Oh,
10, Taylor writes something on line 10, it creates a merge conflict. Visual Studio Code helps you deal with those. And all you basically need to do is figure out which version you want to keep, or if you just edit it and kind of, add the best of both worlds. Taylor, how do you deal with merge conflicts?
yeah. I was just thinking about this, and I probably need to make a tutorial at some point. But the way I deal with it is so in VS Code it says, hey, you can't save a file because there's a merge conflict. And usually when I'm saying that, I'm like, uh-oh, great, what now? So what happens is you can say like view conflict. Once I do that, it is literally going to have these like symbols in the file. And I don't know how to describe these symbols like less, greater than, whatever. And they're basically saying, okay, this is what the part is like different, and then it will say like Michael's code, and then it will say like Taylor's code, and then it could say like keep both, replace both, or overwrite with one or the other, or it could just you could just like I said override everything and just don't keep anything, but I don't usually do that. But yeah, I should like I said because I just changed the interface for this, and so I actually need to do an updated tutorial about this because I don't even know the new interface.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a merge conflict in a while, so that's a good thing.
You never want to have merge conflicts. They will happen, but they're not fun.
And I
So
sometimes get them with myself.
you can do that. Yes, you can.
If I have a file open on Mac and then on Windows, like I tried to do a live share session with myself, and it didn't work too well. So
But basically, these happen mostly when you're using GitHub. If you're using a local repo, it's harder to have a merge conflict unless you make a change in two branches and merge them back into another branch.
yeah,
So that's a way that can happen. So the next thing is to talk about remotes. So, well, let's first go back a minute and talk about how the command line, how do you commit? And that's very easy. You basically do git commit -m space double quote your message double quote. And that will once you've staged your files, that will commit. You could do git um, for branches. I believe you could do git branch, is that it? Or git checkout? I
I
think
think
git
it's
branch makes the branch
yeah.
and
Get
git
checkout checks
checkout.
it out. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I usually do that in VS Code too.
Mm-hmm. So all of these things were made easier in VS Code or other programs so you don't have to remember the command lines. There are certain things I like to do on the command line, like git commit, git pull, git push, because it's just easier just not having to go find those things. But, when you're staging files or if you're doing, creating branches or managing merge conflicts, you definitely want to do those kind of things in VS Code or your source editor of choice. Xcode can do this as well. So
Oh
it
yeah,
just
I can.
depends.
Or even like pull requests, which we can talk
Hmm.
about later.
So, okay, one thing that we haven't talked about is what happens if you want to say you found something on GitHub and you want to work on it or contribute to it. How do you bring that down to your computer? And it's very simple. You could download the zip file which will download the source. But you could also, in your command line, you could write git space clone space URL. So you just paste the GitHub URL that you want to clone, and it will make a new folder and set up Git inside of that folder. And if you're logged into GitHub on your computer, then you can, make changes, fork the repo, which is another term we haven't talked about. Forking is where you make a copy in your own user account of GitHub, and you can make your own changes and then send a pull request to send it back to the original developer. They have to review it and all those kind of things, but yep, git clone URL. And that's how you can bring down other projects so you can work on them or use them. I run I run a Mastodon server, and on my Mastodon server, when I update the source code and then do the rest of the work to make it ready to upgrade, I actually do pull the latest release of Mastodon through
Do you
Git.
really?
Yes, that is part
Wow.
of the process.
How do you know when there's a new Mastodon release? I mean, it's kind of off topic, but it's also like talking about how do you know when somebody's updated?
So it's very simple. I just go do a Google search for Mastodon releases, go to the GitHub page, and review what's new,
Ah,
and make a determination if I want to go through the painful upgrade process.
yeah, it's kind of a pain.
So, yeah, those are some of the ways that we can use Git. Um, again, let's talk about pulling and pushing, which are very easy commands: git pull, git push on the command line.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling is when you're pulling changes down from a remote repository of what people may have changed. So when I'm working on a project, if our other developers make a change, then I'm subscribed by email to see when those changes are, and I can write git space pull, and that will pull their changes down and incorporate them into my code. Now, sometimes you may get merge conflicts and you have to fix those, but that's how that goes. Git push will push your changes up to the cloud through to GitHub, Bitbucket, all the other places that are out there to store repositories. So those are the commands that I use the most. Now, so going back to Git flow, there are a lot of other techniques out there. This does not work the best for building with continuous integration, continuous delivery, but this is a good developer project flow for websites and things like this. Git flow is you have well, I mean, I guess it could when you push to production, you know, when you push develop to production, it could use CI/CD to do all of the things. So I guess that could work. But basically, you have your main branch, as we talked about. Then you have a develop branch that has all of your current developer changes for that version. Then you have feature branches, so feature slash whatever you want it to be called. If you're doing a hot fix or bug fix, you can use hot fix slash the name of the hot fix
I
as
didn't
your
know that.
branches. Hmm.
Mm-mm.
What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know about the hot pick. How do I do it? I am tongue tied. Oh my goodness. Hot fix
Mm-hmm.
branch.
Yep. You could do hot fix slash fix uh, Python key file name.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
kind of going
Yeah.
back to something that happened this morning. And you
Oh.
can then push that into develop, make sure it works, then push it out to main. So that's, the basics of Git flow. You can use uh, that way you make sure that everything, if it's in develop, it's already kind of ready to be tested as one major release. And
Yes.
then when you're ready for it to go out, you can then push it out to main by merging into main, and then you're ready to go.
And speaking of releases, Michael, it'd be cool at the end, like, because I struggle with creating releases, like, once you're ready to release your software. So Like I've done it, but it's like, do you do that from the command line, or do
I
you do
do
that from
not.
the?
That is all things I think you do from GitHub.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a API to do it, but that's not really something that you do in Git, like on your local machine, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, because I wasn't sure, and I think I could. I wonder if I could do it in VS Code because I want to try to keep everything in VS Code. But that's just my opinion.
Well, like here's the thing. One of the things, and I think you have trouble with this, and a lot of people do, is to know what is a Git feature and what is a GitHub feature, right?
Hmm.
Pull request, forking, releases, all of those things are major GitHub features.
Yep, makes
They are
sense.
not Git features.
And I also knew that, but I was trying to get you to talk about that for the audience.
Mm, gotcha.
So.
I don't know if I believe you, but I gotcha.
I do because I've made releases before, so I know how to do it.
So basically, the GitHub has a lot of features, you know, like the issues, the pull requests, all of those things that are, GitHub features. So it's important to know what is a feature of GitHub, what's a feature of Git, right? So keep those things in mind. Um, Taylor, are there other things that we may be missing that we want to talk about?
Well, I what I would say is, Git is super important, and of course I like to use GitHub for my storage, but there's other options. Like I said, somebody could run a GitLab server, which is like an open source alternative, I believe. We had that when I was at Western Michigan University, and that's when I first got exposed to Git. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I have. And I say is that the Git providers that you use, like GitHub, BitLab, ooh,
Bitbucket. I'm
Bitbucket.
sure there is a company called BitLab, but
Oh my gosh. But the accessibility of those will vary, and also of the
mm-hmm,
websites and things.
mm-hmm.
So I
And
just want to put that out there.
when you use GitHub, you do have GitHub Copilot you can use, and
I love
Copilot chat is great, and there's some great features that you can use. So I would look into, do your research, figure out what's going to work best for you, and things like that. The biggest thing with Git is figure out what works best for you. GitFlow was one example, but there's other ways of doing this, right? So like Xcode Cloud uses, we mentioned CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous
it. I need
delivery.
to play with that more.
And with Xcode Cloud, you build your app and you commit to a certain branch, and Apple will see it and go out and just run the code and put it in test flight for you.
Do you use that, Michael?
I've used it a few times. The issue that I'm still working on is how to handle environment variables with that, like API keys and that kind of thing.
I know.
So that's kind of the biggest thing that I'm working on with that, but it is really cool. I've done it with a few apps. So
Yeah, and like even for me, I think there are solutions where I could like do CI/CD with like Django apps, so I could
yes, there
deploy
is.
them to a website. So I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look into that. So
Well, this is going to do it for this episode. I think we've gotten about 30 minutes into this, or close. And, we'll be doing a lot more programming discussions and things like that in the future. So I want to thank you, Taylor, for being here for this episode. We've covered a lot of material. I hope you guys have taken notes, but this is a podcast, so you can go back and re-listen to it. So
yep,
it's been a good episode. We will have this up shortly, and you could always follow us, online. I'm Mike Doey's at techopolis.social on Mastodon, and she is.
Tay Aren't at techopolis.social.
Mm-hmm. And you could also email me at mikedoeys at icloud.com. And you can find the show at iacast.net and programmaticpod.com. All right, folks, that's going to do it. We will be back on another episode of the show. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye bye, everyone.